For those of you who don't know what a slam is, it's a poetry competition where poems are judged. It's judged by 5 people in the audience using 0.0 to 10.0, the Olympic scoring system. And you drop a high, drop a low. A perfect score is a set of 3 10s. A 30 is a perfect score in a poetry slam. This was created by a Chicago construction worker. I won't say his name so that you don't have to shout, so what? But you all know his name, Mark Smith. So what? Mark Smith always insists that the poem is greater than the poet. So whenever his name is uttered, he always insists that people shout, so what? So let's try it again. Mark Smith. So what? See, you got it. You're already pros. I never knew that there was a thing called slam, you know? And I watched this program, and it was phenomenal. It was amazing. And when the poet comes up and speaks on the show, they say their name and the city that they're from. And a poet came up, and he was this rather odd little bald, rotund black man. And he did a poem that was an homage to breasts. And it was the funniest damn poem I've ever heard in my life. And after grading research papers for several hours, that it was exactly what I knew. So we went, and at about 11:30, I'm looking around, and there's music playing, and I'm realizing there's well over 100 people here. This is starting to fill in nicely. And about half an hour of the DJ doing what he was doing, I look around and that number is about doubled. This place is packed with young, throbbing, beautiful, vibrant people. And by this time they've been dancing for almost a good hour. It's almost midnight. You know, they're starting to sweat a bit, and that smell is starting to, something's happening here. And I look over at Rock Baby, and there are tears streaming down his face. And then I start crying. Because I lost my tío, Celestino, the biggest and strongest of all of my uncles, to that word. The only one of my uncles who ran 8 miles every morning. And that night, at an IHOP, well, that morning, about 4 in the morning, I had a conversation with Rock Baby, and I found out, after knowing him for a year, I found out that night that he was a widower. I had no idea. I thought Rock was the funny, silly, ridiculous poet from Dallas who wrote manic, hilarious poems. You know? I didn't know that his wife died of cancer a few years ago, and that he was a single father raising 3 children. That poem, in that room by Shane, it changed everything. Everyone from that moment on for the rest of their life is different than they were before that point. To this day, it's changed me. Think about it. A poem that can change someone. It's an amazing thought. And I lived it. I was there. So that's my greatest slam story ever. It wasn't even competing. It was just in the audience. And I've been, in slams in Paris and New York and junk like that. But that was by far the best slam ever. So when people ask me, why do you slam? I think about that night, and and when I tell people about it, how can I not? How can I not slam after that night? Well, what is a poem? I don't know. That's a hard question to ask because a poem can be long, it can be epic, but it can also be short. It can be a haiku. It can rhyme, or it can not rhyme. It can have meter, or cadence, or a song, or it can not. It can be closed form or open form. A poem can be very, very many different things, but the one thing that it has to be, and probably the only one way to define a poem, is that it is written in lines. And that's the biggest tool that you have is the line break. When you break a line of poetry, you're creating a breath, a moment. It might be a third of a second. It might be longer if you accentuate that line break with punctuation. Why are you doing it? Well, you're doing it to accentuate what was just said in the line and what's coming in the next, or to accentuate line. You're doing it for many reasons, but in a slam format, in a spoken word format, that breath, the way that Shane uses his voice and his breath and his pauses, or the way someone like Mike McGee uses his breath and his pauses and his silence, it can be 40 seconds, it can be a minute and a half, it can be whatever you want it to be, because any poem can be a slam poem. But I will say this, if you're writing your poem to prepare for Mike's Slam, and you read it out loud in your bathroom or in your office to yourself, and you say to yourself, damn it, that's pretty good. I know it's pretty good, because I've heard it said exactly that way 1,000 times before. So it's got to be good. Crumple that piece of paper up. Burn it. Safely. Get rid of it. Because if it's been said 1,001 times exactly that way before, then it's what we call cliche. So the point is this. I don't care whether you're writing a poem or whether you're writing a poem for slam. Damn it, it better be odd. You know? It should be different. It should be a little sick and twisted. Kind of like you all. You know? I mean, just... So, when you're first putting pen to paper, you're first thinking about walking into a slam and being in front of an audience. Start with your voice and then build from there. I know what you're thinking. I've seen you on YouTube, Joaquin, doing persona poems. I've been at this a few years, okay? Cut me some slack, all right? But I also do many things that I hope sound like me, because, you know, what am I? I don't know. I'm a father and a husband and a teacher and a poet and a Chicano. Always in that order, you know? So I'm hoping that my poems sound like one of those things, all of those things.